Good afternoon, Zimbabwe. Good afternoon, viewers of Heart and Soul TV and radio. Welcome to the situation right now, the hottest seat in town, where we discuss the political, socio-economic issues that affect Zimbabwe. Now, this edition of the situation right now is brought to you by COTRAD, promoting youth participation and empowerment in national processes. So this afternoon, we are joined in studio by Honorable Temba Mliswa, Member of Parliament for Northern Constituency. Welcome, Honorable.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
And I'm also joined by Senator for Masvingo constituency, Dr. Mavetera. Welcome and thank you for joining us, Doc.
Thank you and good afternoon.
Today we are going to be basically discussing the issues around Constitutional Amendment Bill number 2, where there is an omnibus of constitutional provisions that seek to be altered or changed. So today we are going to be hearing, because we've had parliamentary processes, outreach processes, to hear what the people want about the bill, the amendment bill, and we're going to be hearing from the honourable members of parliament their assessment from what they've heard with they've interacted with their constituency in regards to the amendment. I will start with you, Honourable Mliswa. What is the vibe from the people? What have you heard from your constituents, and how are they taking this amendment?
I think what is important, first of all, is to appreciate that there are these public hearings which are going on, but what they intend to achieve is also important. I think the whole issue of just having processes for the sake of having processes as a formality certainly is certainly not what we want. The public hearings are there to get the populace involved. But how much do the populace understand the Constitution? First of all, let me be very clear. The Constitution is very clear about the number of languages that we are supposed to have. 16, 17, if I'm not mistaken. And how do we then expect people to go to the constitutional process when there's only one language, which is English? Let's start from there. Are we being fair to the people? Is that going to be a true reflection of what people think when the Constitution is not in the language that they understand and so forth? So already, we have a big problem there. In having that problem, the contributions which are coming from the people, contributions which more or less they're probably fed with information rather than it coming from them. I've seen this in public hearings where basically people speak from their party position and not from a national position and so forth. Political parties are good at feeding people information so that they can just say, yes, we like the bill, we like this amendment, it's good for the country. But which part of the bill, which part of the amendment do you like, which supports what you're going through? This is where you see that they're a bit handicapped, and there's that exposure in that there is no understanding. The issue of the two vice presidents, I think, is an issue which I think is quite topical. One of the issues is should they be elected or should they be appointed to bonus of you? I think the main effect of appointing the president, I think you've empowered him. He's the head of these three pillars of state: judiciary, executive, and also legislation. If he is also appointing the chief justice, which is also there, why can't he also appoint his vice presidents and all that? Because at the end of the day, a hunter must hunt with his dogs. And what is critical is to hold him accountable to all the decisions that he makes and so forth. I basically see nothing wrong in that because the buck stops with him. And I think if you have people elected to then be part of the presidium, already there are factional fights where people are appointed. What about elected? If one decides to say, listen, I cannot take advice from the president, what measures do you take? You now have to have a constitutional provision which equally allows the president to think fire him. But if he's been elected by the people, it becomes very difficult then to say, how do you remove him from office if he has not done what is expected to him, or if the superior is not happy? You can only have one center of power.
So you're talking about this amendment to remove the clause of running mate as an integral aspect of ensuring that the executive or the person elected as president has enough authority to be able to do the work that they want to do without any problems. Okay, let us go to the issues, because we don't want to say they are not promoting this and not promoting this and then not zero in on an example of what they are not promoting. So, from the feedback that you have received, what particular aspects are of concern to the people of Zimbabwe?
The major concerns, they have to do with limiting the powers of parliament. And when we look at section 119 of the 2013 Constitution, which explains or outlines the powers or the roles of parliament, it says, subsection 1, parliament must protect this constitution and promote democratic governance in Zimbabwe. If we examine this statement only, it shows that the parliament must be able to protect the constitution, which I believe came through as through consultative processes, and the final, development was that there was a referendum, and through the referendum, people voted for the 2013 Constitution. So now, within less than 10 years, we are going back to what the people approved, and we say we want to amend the Constitution. And that alone, it's actually retrogressive, because the government has used a lot of funds consulting the people, and now we are going back and say we want to amend the Constitution. No, it is not right. Then before I go to the other details of the amendments, I'll also look at the consultations themselves. The government had to rush with the consultations when we are during the lockdown period, where gatherings are only allowed for 50 people, and in Harare, people did not gather to give their contributions. So now, if the amendment is supposed to promote the interests of Zimbabwe, then other people were also excluded from airing their concerns or their views on the constitutional amendment. Then there is an issue where the Constitutional Amendment Bill number 2 seeks to amend a provision which allows the president to report to parliament whenever he entered into deals with foreign entities and international organizations. Currently, the Constitution says the president should report to parliament, and the parliament should approve if the president enter into, say, treaties with other foreign entities or foreign organizations. But by amending that provision, should be section 327, by amending that provision, he is limiting the powers of parliament to oversee what the president will do. Sometimes he might enter into agreements that will actually be detrimental to the future of Zimbabwe. And the parliament should approve even foreign debts, but this provision, which is now being amended, can also affect, good governance.
From Mashingo, what is the view of the people in terms of, as we look, trying to narrow it down to this presidential running mate clause?
Okay, thank you. Let me start by saying the people of Mashingo rather, has spoken, and it's very clear as to what they want. They are actually in total disagreement with this omnibus amendment of the Constitution. One of the very basic thing which they put forward is, we have given you a constitution. This constitution is only 10 years. And during these 10 years, we were mandated to actually implement the constitution. We have not yet amended, we have not yet started implementing it. So how do you decide whether it is right or wrong? In general, they say if it is not broken, how don't mend it? You get the point? So this is basically the problem. The people of Masvingo are saying no. There was wisdom. Let me just zoom to zero to this amendment for presidential running mates. I think that was a very progressive decision for the people of Zimbabwe to put that. And we need to interrogate ourselves as to why we ended up coming with that provision. Because they had seen the weaknesses of the system which was there, where the incumbent, who is the head of state, would appoint individuals as his or her vice president. You know, the office of the vice president is a very, very big office. Whoever is going to be vice president can be the president the following day when the president either dies or is actually incapacitated or is removed. So people must be given the choice to choose who will actually lead them. And I think when you look at all constitutions, when we start talking, we say we the people, we the people. So that is the duty of the people to decide who is going to be the number one. It cannot be left to an individual. You can actually be personal, and I'll give you an example which is in the public domain. Before the 2017 changes which happened in the country, you had a whole vice president being denigrated in public and being told that you are nothing, you serve at the pleasure of the president. That is atrocious. We can't allow that as a people. He can't serve. You see, if someone who is now wanting to supplant the constitution, you can't serve at the mercy of an individual. You serve at the mercy of the people. We the people.
So I want to come back to you, Honorable Mliswa, and say this running mate clause allows the person who wants to be president to then choose the person that they want to run with. So isn't that enough leverage to give them the authority to already choose the person that they want?
You see, we've got to understand one thing, and I'm glad that Honorable Dr. Mavetera is here. He belongs to a political party. ZANU-PF is a political party. And this is where the problems are. Your own constitutions. Okay. You cannot have a constitution inconsistent with the national constitution. Okay. You have a situation where MPs are being recalled right now. That's 129K. And I thought if there's any amendment which needs to be moved, is that one. I've constantly wanted to debate on it in Parliament. And so when I moved it as a more motion to debate it, because I understand the danger of it. So they agreed to be whipped by the party. But when it comes to and the party again is personal differences. If you see the MPs are being recalled right now, they were elected by the people. That is an injustice that the people elected them. But they allow themselves to conform to that. So how consistent are you when you're then saying, but the president cannot appoint, but here you allow the party to tell you what to do, and so forth. And the party is run by individuals. It's not MDC Alliance or MDCT or ZANU-PF. It is the individuals in there. So there's got to be consistency in terms of the party constitutions moving forward. We are in the habit of not following constitutions as a country. The party constitutions are not followed. We were kicked out of ZANU-PF explode. It was unconstitutional and so forth. 129K, of the constitution, which empowers the party to recall you, is just not the one that you want. And I think it affects the people. The president, again, we've got to understand that the First Amendment was about the Chief Justice. That clearly empowered him. We've already passed it. It's there. So if you're giving him the right to appoint the Chief Justice, which is supposed to be an independent arm of the state, what else is left which he must not be in control of? We must understand that. We actually expect the judiciary to be independent. We expect parliament to be independent. But parliament will equally never be independent for as long as a candidate is coming from a political party.
That is a whipping system.
There is a whipping system. So you've got to understand that whether you like it or not, how brilliant advocate Jacob Mdeda, if the honorable is, he has a party that he belongs to. At some point, he has to be able to play the tune of his party. You see, and in so doing, the independence is not there anymore. So why then don't we then go a step further by saying the judiciary must have a chief justice who's not appointed by the president? The head of parliament must not be appointed by a party. It must be probably interviews which are done of people with a certain criteria, whether judges and so forth who have retired. It's a public interview.
But these are some of the issues, Honorable Mliswa, that have been raised by people in the outreach programs. So some have actually said that they don't even want MPs cabinet ministers to be appointed from parliament. They want parliament to approve those appointments so that there is no confliction of executive and parliament. So you appear to be supporting that in what I'm reading from you.
You see, but what I'm saying to you at the end of the day is about the consistency of how things are done. If you have empowered the president already to appoint a chief justice, why are you not also empowering him to appoint the two vice presidents? That's what I'm talking about. Okay. If the speaker is also coming from a political party, okay, and the ones with the majority have the say, why then don't you just allow? Because the political party is the mother of the president and the speaker. So it's no difference in terms of that. So there is no independence. That's what I'm talking about. We have gone thus far. So why are we now thinking that in allowing the president to have running mates and them going for elections will resolve the situation? It will not. It is the path that we're taking in. Whether it's wrong or not, there's got to be consistency. There's something that is saying that you'd rather be consistently wrong than rather be inconsistent.
Do you agree with me with this assertion?
Being consistently wrong gives you the credibility of being consistent while you are wrong.
Do you agree with this?
I respectfully don't agree with it, because that's why we are subject to review of our actions, so that we don't go continuously in a wrong trajectory. But having said that, let me just probably what my brother Honorable Mliswa has just said in vis-a-vis the appointment of judges as a justification for president to actually go in and try to appoint his vice presidents. The current situation as it is right now, the appointment of judges, yes, I think it has got a semblance of trying to maintain independence of the judiciary. Actually, what happens at the moment now, people nominate, interviews are taken, then president is given 3 people whom he has to choose, but he has gone through the mill. This is different from a president just taking Mavetera from Mwashingo there in good and say, you are now my vice president. And no one knows how Mavetera behaves, whether he is actually fit to be in that office, just because the president has said so. No, we can't have that. So it's actually different from what is happening at the judiciary. That's why we are even also, there's a clause trying to say we should not have those interviews. We are saying we should have interviews of the judiciary. Everything I alluded to at the beginning, to say we, the judiciary, the executive, parliament are accountable to the people. So there should be an input from the people, and public interviews for judges of the High Court, Supreme Court, Constitutional Court is an attempt to try to, because public, you are nominated. If I want you to be Chief Justice, when the interviews are put for adverts, I will nominate you. Then you go through the people will listen. Then 3 people are chosen. Then president will choose from that crop. It is actually direct, not the president. And to buttress that, the powers now, if we look, just because he has put a comparison between judiciary and the presidency, if you look at our current constitution, it is not easy to, president cannot just willy-nilly dismiss the chief justice. There is a robust process which has to be followed. He has to set up a tribunal. A tribunal then will actually go and interrogate on the merits and demerits. And he has then to recommend to the president whether this person is fit to be dismissed or not to be dismissed. And the president, the constitution, must act in accordance with the recommendations. So there is a process. So when the president is being irresponsible and trying to take personal vendettas, there are checks and balances. That's the whole essence of a democracy. We should make sure that we try to curtail abuse of power. So when you now go on to our issue of vice president, the vice president is supposed to advise the president, assist the president independently. If he's going to follow the mistakes of the president, then we've got a problem. In other words, we don't need that vice president. He's supposed actually to also assist and be independent. But when you are working at the mercy of the incumbent, then you are not independent. You now will say, okay, tomorrow I may, just to quote, for example, just before 2017, we heard the rally, Mangwana ndinomudonedza uyu. What was the reason yokumudonedza? You get the point? Yeah. That is abuse. And the people of Zimbabwe, they saw that in black and white, that absolute power absolutely corrupts. And hence, we need to maintain this provision where VPs are accountable to the people, not to the president. And people must know that in the event my brother is the president, he dies, it should be clear who is going to be the president, and we are confident that he fits the meal. There are two anyone can be, but people will have a say. Because this is the number one office in the land.
Yeah, I want us to listen to this contribution that has come from one of our viewers in Mashingo right now, who wants both of you to interact with this question. So,
okay, my only question is, why is there such a hurry to make amendments to the current constitution, yet the government hasn't made any efforts to adhere to, what the current constitution stipulates? There are so many cases we could raise about, how the government has gone against the constitution, but they seem to be in a hurry to make amendments. Why is that so?
So I can start with you to interact with this question, Honorable.
But you see, this is precisely my point, that we have not complied with many of the things that we've done. We've not even complied with the great blueprint documents, economic documents we put together. And it's become a culture of the Zimbabweans to write well and not to implement. Everybody knows that. So it's a culture now. So one is not shocked when that happens and so forth. But we've also got a citizenry which is also passive. And the leaders know that they are passive. The later regime was in power for 37 years because he knew his people. He knew that they would not do anything. Mm-hmm. He knew that they were well learned. He made sure they go to school. But at the same time, they are not aggressive enough and robust enough to stand up and defend their rights. It's different from their generation. Okay, and it was very clear that you are where you are because of us, and no one argued that. Good healthcare system at the time, good education system at the time that you can't take away. But then it started deteriorating. When it deteriorated, no one stood up to it. And it's the culture of the Zimbabwean people. Today, the Chinese are shooting our people. Okay, yet we are more determined to go and have a match which fights an evil which is not as bad as somebody being shot. The Americans, in their minority, put a check on the majority. But here, it is the minority who puts a check on the majority. So to me, it's the nature of our people. And because of that, we've been taken advantage of. And our leaders know that. They know that blessed and plan, Temba Mliswa, Hon Mavetera, will talk on social media, but they will not do anything at all. So now when you have a system like that, it then does anything at any time as it wishes. Because they know no one will stand up. You now have a situation where in Parliament where the standing order rules went so through the National House of Assembly without a debate yet. Members, these are rules which concern them. But because the opposition, Honorable Mtsami, Honorable Tabita, Kumalo, and Honorable Titivius, who sit on the standing order rules, were not there to check. It sailed through without them even debating on the rules which govern them. So to me, I'm just trying to respond to him that they know we are passive. We will not do anything about it. When these consultations happen, the youth today are crying why they were not part of the constitution and why the women were part of the quota system. Because they never participated. When it's critical for our people to participate in issues of the constitution, they are not there. Today there was a public hearing on the cyber security bill in Norton. And fortunately, I have young people that have groomed within the community who read and understand. Okay. And other members who were there, they were basically told their party, get up and say, I support the bill, it's great. But the young people that had picked were very clear. Section A, B, C, and D is not good. Can it be replaced by this? So, so the whipping system, because the political parties at the top, they now use it for everyone. Because why? Because at the end of the day, people vote for political parties and not capacity and not individuals. It's a couch.
We were talking, you feel strongly, before we started the program, you feel strongly about the clause where there will be the removal of the running mate. And this clause are 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, 7, and 8. So this clauses say they dispense with the running mate concept of the vice presidents. Instead, the 2 vice presidents will be chosen on the president's own authority.
Yeah, I will give 2 examples. Now, one, the local example, then I'll give the latest example from Malawi. When the president is given too much powers to appoint the other executive members, there is danger, because there is history of nepotism in Zimbabwe. So the people should be given the right to choose who might be the successor. And also the problem in Zimbabwe, when we had the former president at the helm, President Mugabe, the major problem was succession. So the running mate clause comes also to deal with succession problems. I think it is good for the people to vote for the running mate. The running mate clause should remain as it is, because it then deals, with the problem of succession. Then when you go to Malawi, people were celebrating, the coming in of Chapera, President Chapera. But now people are complaining that there is evidence of serious nepotism, where he is appointing people who are close to his family. And there is also one minister and his wife, they are being appointed into one cabinet. We have seen also recently in Zimbabwe the appointment of Obadiah Moyo, who was then involved in a number of grand corruption when we were supposed to be fighting COVID-19 pandemic. He was using the donations, to benefit his own interests. So there's danger now if the president is going to pick his own vice president, it kills, the idea of promoting democracy, because the people who are appointed by the president will always be playing to the tune of the president. They will not reprimand the president who appointed them. And the last thing is that the issue of running mates was subjected to debate, and the people were asked to give their views about the running mate clause, and they agreed that they need the running mate clause to be there in the 2013 constitution. So now we are taking things that were voted for by the people, and we are now abrogating the constitution. The value of the constitution is being eroded.
So, Honorable Mavetera, in line with this, we discussed earlier on when we're standing outside the issue of the whipping system and how it injures democracy in Zimbabwe. So, like you're saying, the process has happened around the country and views have been put in place. MPs are going to vote, but they're going to vote on a whipping system. Does it really, make a difference that there was a consultation process?
Just before you come in, I want to just say something to Honorable Mavetera about the selection of the judiciary. He's right. The process is done. Okay, the three are presented before the president. I want you to know they're presented before the president. He still has the final say.
Yeah,
so it's better for him to appoint. I want you to understand that. So it's equally better for him to appoint, because at the end of the day, we are three here. You were number one, I was number two, I was number three. And he picks him. You cannot argue. He was number three. Yet number one is left out. So how fair is the process? So that's why I'm saying that despite that being the case, the powers at the end of the day are with the president while the process is happening. Parliament in the Constitution is said you shall consult. And when you consult, at times it's not law. Okay, you can ignore consulting. Okay, and do it. Yes, when you're sick in 3 months, consult the doctor. It's different from you're directed, instructed to see the doctor. Even if I don't see the doctor and I've been told I must consult the doctor, it has no bearing on me. So certain terms of consult and so forth basically say to you, there's somebody who is in control. Sorry, I just wanted to...
Okay, so the question that I put to you, the whipping system, eventually people are whipped into line to vote, even if it is against what, like you're saying, people have spoken, the people in Mashingo, the people in Norton, the people have all spoken. But at the end of the day, you're going to vote on a whipping system. And ZANU-PF is a 2/3 majority.
Yeah, that's actually the most unfortunate bit, and I do share the same sentiments. To me, if I was given chance to look at this supreme law, the first section which I would go for is section 129K. Before we start anything, because it is actually what brought us to where we are. Whether it is in opposition, whether it is in the ruling party, people are not free to discuss what they want, because if it is not party position, it's not a party position, should be national position. This is where we have it wrong. So definitely I do share. I don't personally, this is a personal opinion, that section is being abused. Unfortunately, and it is not serving the purpose. Probably as a first start, this is what we have implemented, and we have seen it's in, that is why we should be struck. Actually, if it was number one, I would say I think we are heading the right trajectory. But basically, what he's saying, it is unfortunately, if we actually continue to advocate and interrogate this behavior, we can't say when we abuse, when we don't adhere to the Constitution, when we go above the Constitution, We say because people don't take advantage of the people. That is unfortunate. We don't want leadership which take advantage of the people. And I think that is not the intention of the people when they put us into power. But of course, we should actually be happy that Zimbabweans are passive. They are law-abiding. And if you go wherever you want, people will say, Zimbabwe, even under the current system, we are the most peaceful destination in the world. But you should not take advantage of it. So all this issue of saying, because at the end of the day, we will use the majority, is unfortunate, but we should continue to speak against it. People have spoken. When we change a constitution, it must be in keeping or trying to further democratic values, our founding values. That's why there is 3 arms of state, is to try to provide checks and balances. So we can't have one power being centralized on one person. We'll have a problem. And I think Zimbabweans should be very clear. We had an executive president who actually in historical times would be called a monarch in the mold of our late president, R.G. Mugabe. What he said was law. What he said at a rally was law. You get the point? We don't want anything. We can't bring this one back. That's why people of Zimbabwe said no. And he's right, correct to say we were very progressive early independence. Then later on things started to deteriorate. But people could not say a word. Why? Because of these monarchical powers. And these are the ones which are trying to be brought back again. We say no. The people are very clear on what they want.
I want to turn your attention to what this viewer is saying to us. He's saying that I'm concerned about delinking of census to delimitation. And I would want to know if the MPs, what the MPs view on this issue. So I will start again with you.
You see, I think what we've got to understand, delimitation really is really a game of figures and numbers. You've got to understand there are certain constituencies which are much more bigger, and as a result, they need to really have their own leaders. But we also have to look at the population of the country. That are we really supposed to have this many constituencies?
Yes.
You see, that's also the other issue. I think it's been a game. I mean, one thing that you cannot take away from the ruling party is their ability to strategize, and to come up with things which ultimately look great, but they are empowering themselves. So I would imagine when they realized they were getting weaker in elections and they were losing, they just increased the constituencies. Okay. And we celebrate and say it's like great and so forth. But our population, with the number of constituencies that we have and with the budget that we have, you cannot have 210 constituencies. You also have the Senate and everything, 300. It's just impossible.
Yes, so you've got to buy 300 cars for
350
you are
cars.
Housing people in hotels.
No, you cannot at all absorb that as an economy. It is totally wrong. I know for a fact that myself and Dr. Mavetera don't really need some of these things. As an accomplished doctor, a top pediatrician, I mean, I was just thinking, just to break off, there's no Minister of Health. Just moving forward, there are 2 proposals that I'll put to the President. Dr. Ruth Labode or Dr. Mavetera, a specialist. But I'm also going back to the fact that, but is the ruling party prepared to bring in a professional? No, but Hussavan is a health system. He's one of the top pediatricians in the country. Dr. Ruth Labode worked as a provincial medical director, understands the system, but they don't belong to ZANU-PF. If ZANU-PF has no medical doctor right now, what stops them from appointing one for national interest? That breaks my heart, to say that we're so polarized that even the best people, they are not given a chance and so forth. But going to the aspect of delimitation, it was a strategy even in the words. When they realized they are losing, they'll create another one. But it's been a burden on the fiscus. It's been a terrible burden on the fiscus. That's the reason why I say I don't really have to be in parliament. I don't need to be in parliament. From 2013 to now, I've never driven a parliamentary car. Are you aware of that?
Is that so?
I've never. And I'm entitled to 3 cars. I've never, because I don't go to parliament for a car. I go to parliament to serve people. So now, if you now look at that, it then certainly brings us to the point of, do we need all these constituencies? And the delimitation was a strategic way of ensuring that they remain in power.
So from my reading, from what you're saying, having delimitation without census can actually allow more gerrymandering and creation of wards based on what they say is a voter registration, and actually limit constituencies in areas that they do not have that support.
No, but it's a political power game of saying we don't control this. Here, I think we'll divide. This side is our side. This side is not our side. Let them keep it. They would actually like to actually kill that side, okay, and so forth. So to me, the census is the critical stage of understanding how many people you have. And there's no ways you can have delimitation before a census. It's impossible. You must know how many people are in a constituency. You must know how many people are in a ward and so forth. We must not only that, we must go a step further and say the number of people that we have in a ward, like he says, there must be a review of that. Is this the number or it must increase? The number of people in a constituency, is this the number or it must increase? The number of proportional representative, which is also an issue which is part of this, that should it be extended? And I've always said no. There are people, women who've won constituencies. On a former member of Parliament, Salama Walker, used to win a constituency. My sister won a constituency. Honorable Masango won a constituency. There are members of Parliament who've won constituencies who are women. So how did they win them? Honorable Chinomuna won a constituency. So how do these Jensima Jumbe won? Honorable John Mamumbe won a constituency. So what is then the point of rewarding? The youth are the majority. 55.5% of the people, the voters, who are women. So what more do you want? They must put themselves in power. But again, democratically, they don't believe others can lead. You cannot blame the men who are in power. Equally, the youth are over 60%. Why are they trusting people who are not of their generation to lead? And who are they blaming? So we must be very clear about that. This is a game of numbers. There is no ways that you can have a situation where 60% of the people who vote are not in the corridors of power. And then you start to blame a system
for not exercising
exactly. So this is the other one that I'm saying, no. The proportional representative we have in parliament certainly have not at all aided anything to the women. You've got my dear sister Linda Msariri, who used to be beaten up and so forth and all that. They never said anything. The thing sanitary way, Honorable Msiara, Honorable Jesimanjo, myself brought it up. I'm a man. But the women were very quiet. When one of the women is brutalized, they don't speak, they don't talk. How many women are being victimized and being brutalized by men? But you never hear debate on that. So what are they doing? So I'd rather we replace them by people with capacity who are women. But what criteria should you then bring together and so forth? Not only that, within the political parties, it is said, listen, they are in power because of certain relationships with party leaders, not merit. There's controversy already there. So let's break that. Let's allow women to have their integrity. We're going for 50-50. We're going for equality at the end of the day. Equality is about standing on your own 2 feet and achieving where you must.
We should have been sensitive enough to bring in a woman on this program so that they can also, air their views. But
no, sorry, we can equally air views for women here, by the way. That's why I've said the sanitary way was debated by me. As a man, I'm not a woman, because the women had failed. So that we are pretty capacitated to also represent them. They are our mothers, and there's no ways we cannot allow our mothers to...
Certainly you bring the important issue of giving people parliamentary seats on a silver platter and probably sending a message that they are not equal to the others. They need help. They need, and as you were saying, that it doesn't augur well in terms of their advancement and raising the issues that need to be raised. I want us to actually also appreciate that when delimitation happens, following a census, it leaves ZEC with less time to be able to come out with boundaries and come up with all those things. So what would be the suggestion? Because census should then happen after every 5 years. And after every 5 years, that's also where you have then an election. So is this not a good move to ensure that you have constituencies demarcated way before an election?
Yeah, if I think that we go back again to effective representation. The idea of having, say, census after 5 years is based on the fact that every year there are people who are, a lot of them who are turning 18 years, who are now eligible to vote. So just as the registration of voters is a continuous process, then the SEC should also consider that the numbers of voters will be increasing every day or every year. But now, if they do the delimitation before the census, we are likely going to have a problem where we have now constituencies with more people, and now one MP will not be able to represent. So the suggestion is to leave things as they are right now. I think it is working for Zimbabwe. We have, unless there are some compelling reasons, but so far we have not heard of those compelling reasons why the current setup should be amended. What they just need to do is to equip, the National Statistical Office so that they can do that. Now, because of technology, I don't think they will have problems. They have to digitalize the central the registry department, so that they will be registering people, and also decentralize the registration process even for ZEC. If they want to also consider the number of voters, it's another thing. They need to decentralize the voting process, so that when I'm in Warren Park, I should be able to register in Warren Park. They should also even go online registration, but because of biometric process, they have to decentralize so that people will register in their constituencies. So this is what I think is important.
But as we continue to discuss the demarcation, and Honorable Mliswa puts it clearly that population is a key, population census is a key in making sure how many seats we have or how many constituencies we have. How is it for you in Masvingo? I say this in particular, looking at Chingwizi, where people were moved because of floods. So now you have a highly dense population in a certain area, but you still have the same MP now superintending over 80,000 or so people.
Precisely, I think what he said is very, very correct. And it's very unfortunate that we don't, when we read this supreme law, we don't look at the objective of it, what it's trying to achieve. Basically, linking delimitation to a census is to make sure that you can divide the country equitably, and when we put constituents, we actually allocate resources to a particular constituency, and you only need to distribute that equitably. And how do you know how many people are in this place, how many are in this place, and how many are in this place? It's only from a census. So this issue of trying to delink delimitation from a census is outrageous. Like, I can't put it any better than what he has said. It's actually a political strategy. There's something in that glove which people are, but unfortunately not best for the interest of the. I will speak on behalf of Masvingo. You gave a very good example of Chingwizi. Who know how many people are in Chingwizi? No one. And you can find out that an MP may end up superintending, like you put 100,000 people, and there's one constituency which have got 20,000 people, and you allocate same resources. Does that make sense? definitely the objective of linking the census to delimitation is very noble, and that's why it was actually made a supreme law of the land, because one is to try to make sure that resources are allocated equitably. And in this case, you may actually have, like, right, say, the ruling party may be, say, strong in Mashonaland East. You find out there will be 50 constituencies. And how do I go as an ordinary citizen to try to say, how did you come? We have got no basis. It's because it's just ZEC. We don't know what they are using to come out with those.
They said they will then use the number of registered voters in that particular.
Oh, thank you. I was just about to go into that. An MP of a constituency does not represent registered voters. Please, it has to be very. It represents every Zimbabwean. So we are already lost when we want to use registered voters. How about if someone chooses not to vote, so you forget them? Does not make sense. So an MP represents everyone, voters, non-voters. So it cannot be used to say, because we've got so many registered voters here, so we create more constituents for them. We want the number, census, to tell how many people are living in this area. Then you can make a delimitation, not on how many have. So that's a tragedy. So it's unfortunate the amendment is not an amendment which we would expect in a progressive country.
I want us to go to the issue, Honorable Mliswa, of parliamentary powers that are discussed in this amendment. The issue of looking at foreign deals that government goes through, and that deletion that is coming in that clause. How do you see that in the exercise of the people's power? Because I remember there was one old lady who was captured on social media saying that we send parliamentarians to go and keep an eye on our behalf, and we want them to be able to question any deal that government does enter into. And now that power is being removed from parliament.
Let me respond in a manner which will change, hopefully, the minds of the people. For as long as ZANU-PF is in power as a governing party, its members will never question the ministers. As long as MDC, AMDCT, Zoom is in power, its members will never ask its ministers because of the whipping system. This is the reason why our people must move away from political parties to capacity. It's critical. The reason why I'm able to speak in parliament, and the reason why other members from ZANU-PF feel that I'm speaking too much is because I'm not put on a list to speak. I'm my own boss. I get up and I say, I want to speak. They have to be put on a list to speak. So instead of him attacking me, he must resign from his party and be independent like me, rather than complain to the chair that why is Mliswa speaking? And because I don't report to anyone, it's my independence and so forth. So I'm hoping that my contribution in parliament and my stance motivates and inspires Zimbabweans to move away from political parties, because it is destroying them. They have created it. If it's ZANU-PF, they don't even ask who's the councillor. The people in this country, if you ask them who your councillor is, they will tell you ZANU-PF. What's the name? ZANU-PF. Who's your MPs? ZANU-PF. What's the name? ZANU-PF. If you go in the urban, who's where MDC is a control? Who's your councillor? MDC. What's your MP's name? MDC. They don't even know the name. Who's your senator? They don't know. So these are the issues which I'm talking about. What is supposed to happen is already Parliament, through the Constitution, through the standing order, is empowered. That is the reason why we go back to the question of the question that you raised, or something like, why are we consistently changing the Constitution when we have not implemented any of the provisions? You see, that is critical. Parliament has many powers through the Standing Order Committee rules which are there. I, as chairman of the Mines and Energy Committee at the time even called the former president. No one ever thought it could happen. But the rules empower you to do that. And the question was simple. Your Excellency, at the time you were in office, you said 15 billion worth of diamonds were stolen. Can you tell us? And that was the question that we were going to ask. But he was not well, he was old, he was sick. As a result, we were human about it. We couldn't bring him there. But that's how far we went. The Vice President came. The Police Commissioner General came. The Director General CIO came. The Minister of Defense came. The Minister of State Security came. Because we needed to establish facts. And if they feel that things are confidential, they can be in camera. But you are still held accountable. They are not prepared to do that. Because of that, that's why an honorable member, Honorable Mashama, got up and said, but why does Mliswa speak like that to our ministers? Okay. And so forth. That's basically what I was saying at the end of the day, that they don't even have capacity. He has no shame. The chair is from his party. The chief whip is from his party. So in a way, he was even insulting the chair that you favor him. Why? And then the chief whip, but I am not whipped. So capacity in that house is also a problem. What I'm hoping the people do in the Constitution quickly is to also amend the academic qualifications of legislators and councillors. That's where we are also gone. Your financials which are put before you, you've not done your ZJC, you've not done your O-level, you've not done your A-level. How do you read them? We don't even have a criteria of saying if you have to be a councillor, 5 O-levels, English and maths being mandatory. There's nothing like that. What is required to 21 years of age, registered voter, citizen of the country. 3 things. And this is what, so to the people of Zimbabwe, what you have is what you chose. Parliament is a true reflection of you, not us. So when you say kuti vari kuwesta time, muri kuzozvituka mega, kusvikira matsvaga amendment muconstitution yamunochinja kuti vanenge vachitipinda kuparliament ngaanga ane fundo nekuti tiri nyika yakadzidza, one hatina criteria. Zambia has got that criteria. 5 O-levels.
So you're talking of a legislator and you're supposed to be able to make law.
Exactly.
So you have to have capacity to do that.
But you cannot at all be in that without capacity.
Let me come to you, the issue that I spoke about, taking power from to question foreign deals.
Yeah, it's actually very unfortunate to say the least, because one of the functions of Parliament is to protect the Constitution. That is our primary mandate, to protect from being tampered with for selfish means. And this is one of the reasons, one of the indications where we have to exercise our mandate.
Which selfish reasons are you talking about in this particular
When
place?
you are presiding over the country and you want to be unaccountable to share the deals which you bring in, and you say the people of Zimbabwe should not know what I have agreed, we will end up, for heaven's sake, our natural resources being mortgaged. You get the point? I remember yesteryears when there was an uproar about Chinese fleecing Africa, and one Chinese diplomat actually was very clear, but as Africans, he said, the problem is because you don't know how to make deals. It's your leadership. And it actually goes back to what he was saying. You can't have someone to preside or to vote or to criticize or to analyze a budget when they don't even know profit and loss. It does not make sense. You know, there's one thing which I know I'll be very unpopular if I say this, but it will actually be correct. You know, before independence, the whites used to say, in urban areas, if you don't own a property, you don't vote. You get the point? They said it was racist, it was what? But look at what is happening right now. You will have someone one is like he said, I don't want to repeat it, who has no qualification to preside. City of Harare, for example, is 100 million, it's a billion, it's the second economy to Zimbabwe. You need people who are competent to manage it, who can scrutinize, who can all these things. But because you are a Zimbabwean, you are alive, you are a registered voter, and you are 21 years old. That's the qualification. Honestly, to preside over. That's why we have all these things happening. So I think we really need this clause of trying to take off the power of the people. I won't say it parliament. Parliament derives its mandate from the people. To say you don't question what I do in deciding the future of this country should be resisted by any progressive Zimbabwean.
I would want us to just round off. I'll give you an opportunity, Honorable Mliswa, to talk to the people of Zimbabwe as we look into these 27 constitutional amendments, issues around them, from your heart to the people of Zimbabwe.
For me, fellow Zimbabweans, it is with a heavy heart that I say that we seem not to do what we agree. We seem not to understand what we agree. The Constitution is a sacred document of the nation, and we have not even ourselves petitioned Parliament enough to say this has not been done, this has not been done. A good example that I'll give you is the involvement of the army in law and order. The provisions are there, section 213 and 214 of the Constitution, which empowers them to do that in terms of maintaining law and order if the police are overwhelmed. You put that clause there, you agree to that clause, but when you see them on the streets, you blame the government. That's the reason why the former president ignored us. He was well read, he knew you were not reading, and there's no way you can go with it, because he would then go to the international committee and say, but this is their constitution. They put me in power. I'm implementing the constitution at the end of the day. Let us understand our constitution. Let us participate. Let us be involved. And let's move away from polarization of saying that political parties are more superior. To the youth, may you be the vanguard of the nation, not the vanguard of your political parties. May you dictate your future. To generations which have overstepped, may you support a generation which is in office, because I call it a generation of consensus. Despite you not having been in power during your time, may you make sure that those in power are supported by you from a generational consensus point of view. That's all I'd say. May you be independent in thinking, and may you choose people who are independent in their execution of duty. We cannot keep on changing constitutions, documents without implementation. Our role is oversight. You are our eyes. We expect you to come back to us to say, may you please finish this exercise book. Like a teacher cannot go to the next exercise book before he finishes the first one that you have to understand. Thank you.
Honorable Mavetera, your opportunity to talk to the people of Zimbabwe.
Thank you very much. My parting word to the people of Zimbabwe is we take cognizance of the fact that you spoke in 2013 when you came out with such a progressive document, and you empowered or mandated people to implement it. And what you should do is to continue to hold those people whom you put into office accountable to implement the Constitution, rather than tampering with it before it has even been implemented. I think we are taking people for fools. And I would want to apologize to the people of Zimbabwe if we allow, as Parliament, I've told you the role of the Parliament, the first thing is to
Uphold the Constitution.
Uphold the Constitution. Constitution is a sacred document. I'm not trying to sound blasphemous, but it's someone wanting to change the Bible. You have to have serious. You introspect yourself seriously, and whether you think is necessary. And that's when we zoom to our constitution, we take it sacred. It is the voice of the people. That's why it says we the people. So we will do whatever it takes to play the role with you, and we want the constitution to be implemented, and also to call all over. I think this is one of the exercises which unfortunately was brought forward during COVID, which actually restricted people from participating from such a, whether it was a technique or a strategy. This is not the forum to discuss it. But I want to applaud all Zimbabweans who came out in their numbers during this period of COVID, especially the people of Masvingo. They are unanimous. There is no ambiguity. They are saying we don't subscribe to the tampering of this sacred document, which is our constitution. So these amendments are against the principles and founding values of our nation and the whole objectives of a progressive Zimbabwe, and they are not in sync with the democratic values which we so much value as a Zimbabwean. So to the people of Masvingo, I say thank you very much for reaffirming your position vis-a-vis what you want. This document is a draconian piece of legislation which does not have any place in a democratic society. Thank you.
Tinoti wezhira
Wejara, wejeve.
kumasvingo ikoko. So we want to thank you very much for joining us. Well, this lively debate that I've just had with the Honorable Temba Mliswa and Dr. Mavetera from Masvingo, Wezhira, Wejara, Wezheve, in partnership with Cotrad, whose motto is promoting youth participation and empowerment in national processes. And these are national processes that we have had an opportunity to be discussing. And I want to thank you, especially you, Honorable Mliswa, because you said, I will take whatever time and be able to get there, even though I'm busy, so that we discuss this important national issue. And thank you also, Doc, for waiting here for over an hour or so while we wait, to ensure that the people of Zimbabwe, you hear their voice and you respond to what their aspirations are. Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Thank you very much.
You're listening to Hardest Soul Radio Station.